Last week we talked about a story that everyone knows. So to return to what's normal today, I have a new webtoon only the people who live on the website like me know already. I present to you The Reborn Young Lord is an Assassin. Yes, that is in Korean, but that's what it says. A very descriptive title. At least it is not as long as some of the light novel titles I read, so I guess we're still in a good direction. But let us not lose focus, and let me read the description of this webtoon for you. Cyan Vert, illegitimate son of the Duke and the Empire's greatest assassin, is betrayed by the righteous brother whose shadow he has always lived. But just before the fatal blow strikes his throat, Cyan awakes to find he's just a boy again. The young lord has been reborn, and this time he's not going to live in anyone's shadow. For me, this description sounds cool, but also a bit generic. These are the types of story everyone wants to read, so Webtoon just continues to pump them out over and over again. The first chapter starts off with what we just read in the description, which is nice. Sometimes the description tells you everything that will happen in the first 5 or even more chapters. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of those kind of descriptions. For me, a summary or a description can be vague and not tell a lot. All it needs to do is pull the reader into the story. There's not much else it needs to do. As far as art style goes, it is exactly what we know from the classic high quality webtoons, but it's always nice to look at, so nobody will complain about good art. I do wonder what science the protagonist's brother can gain from disposing of him. I mean, this already feels a tiny bit stupid in the way that he's just shooting himself in the back. I want a better explanation somewhere down in the future. We are getting a few key plot points mentioned that happened in the past, where a protagonist helped his brother. Considering he's going to get reborn, I do think he might change how things will turn out and form a group that works only for him, and probably stop a lot of things that his brother would normally do in that timeline. However, I also am still a bit unsure if his rebirth is him going back to when he was young, or actually entering a new body. Hearing your own brother that you work for and supported with all your heart say, "I never trusted you," yeah, that is a bit heartbreaking. I guess that makes it easy for us readers to hate the guy and be on the side of the main character. By the way, yes, this is a regression story. It didn't take long for me to actually find out, and I expected this already. Back in his weak child body, with all the assassin's knowledge he acquired over the years, he is very confident. I mean, this guy literally pulled out the line, "No need, I'll just win." Just crazy. It's already pretty obvious that this main character will be a very classic cool guy character. His exact personality is still to be discovered, but saying he will be a badass, that is a very easy guess to make. Many characters, when transported back in time, are thinking about not making it obvious or not changing the timeline too much. But I guess Cyan, he just wants to deal with all the bad people he suffered from in his first life, not considering the consequences. Also, something that will probably come up again, and was already mentioned in the description as well, was the fact that Cyan is an illegitimate child of the Duke. We all know how people look on these kind of situations in medieval settings. He will probably be downplayed a lot, and we know that's not going to be fun. Trash talking, check. Maybe one of these days I need to make a trash talking tier list for webtoon protagonists, but not right now. The Duke, his father, doesn't seem to be a bad person per se, just your typical warrior who does everything for the country he serves, and because of that he also cares more for the children that show potential. And Cyan in his past life, well, he did not show that much potential and talent. Seeing how the relationship will develop will be interesting. Who knows, maybe one day there will be a time where the Duke thinks that Cyan is more valuable than the brother that killed him in the past, or in the future. The character designs of this story are really good. They can go from intimidating to cute and even ooh la la. It seems like Cyan does have people he can trust in his family, but they are all just a bit overbearing, to say the least. So far, the fighting choreographies look promising. Let's wait and see how magic will change that in the future, because adding magic on top of physical fights is guaranteed to change how the flow of battles will look like. As the main character is back in his child body, he is much weaker, but his techniques are just as deadly. Using the moment where the enemy underestimates him will 100% be useful at least once over the course of this story. That's one of my predictions. One thing I find a bit weird is the magic tiers, or at least how Webtoon decided to translate it. For example, at one point they said level 6 star magic. Not level 6 star magic, but level 6 star magic. Doesn't that feel a bit doubled up? Level 6 magic makes sense, and so does 6 star magic. but level 6 star magic feels like it is saying the same thing twice. Anyways, because of his current weakness, he has to rely on other people to get through certain situations. I wonder how long this will last. You all know that I am not the biggest fan of overpowered main characters, but it just happens over and over again on Webtoon. It's just what people like to read. It already seems like the Duke is taking much better care of Cyan in this time. Having talent and potential does appear to be everything in this world. It, however, is quite cute to see that our protagonist struggles to do even 10 push-ups. That shows us just how frail Cyan's body is at the moment, and also puts in perspective how impressive his battle feats are. Just imagine seeing a kid that can barely do 10 push-ups, do all kinds of crazy things in battle situations. I can't wait for him to be called a prodigy, because that will 100% happen as well. The next thing I will talk about is something that happens in every regression story. Using the knowledge that only people from the future could have to accelerate your own growth. Stealing the achievement of your shitty half-brother is a good way to start. Bad people losing future opportunities? I mean, we love to see it. Take those power-ups away and get your revenge, Cyan, my boy. Even though you are, I guess, older? I don't know how ages work with regressions. Hearing all these things about gods and the bigger picture of the world, I do wonder if our main character could perhaps receive a blessing himself in this life. After all, with him changing the story and becoming much stronger, it would be pretty odd if the gods did not become aware of him. Who knows? Maybe it actually was a god to begin with that allowed him to travel back in time to get his revenge. However, this also opens up the question if it was the obvious god or perhaps one we could never predict. The obvious ones would either be the god of light or shadow, because he is kind of connected to the god of shadow or darkness, and the god of light is technically connected to his brother. But because his brother betrayed him, maybe the god of light also decided that this brother is not worth supporting anymore. I am enjoying this story a lot, but it does also check a lot of the generic boxes. However, it does them quite well, and that is the only thing that counts, the execution. Also, we should never forget that these tropes are popular for a reason. But let us get back to a few more things from this story. The protagonist is not keeping it a secret that he had a life before this one. Well, at least so far he told it to his magic weapon. But he seems like the kind of guy who would tell it to anyone if it can be helpful for himself. Seeing Cyan just attempting to mess up every single heroic flag that should exist for his brother is hilarious to me. When the time comes and his brother appears and isn't a total jerk, it will be a bit awkward though. I wonder if he actually is an asshole, or if there were some things that just made him do the betrayal. Maybe he got manipulated, or maybe he is just an ass. To test if Cyan is ready to go to the front lines, which was his personal wish after winning a sparring match in chapter 1, he has to battle against a demon. Well, a low-level demon, but it is still something a child should not be able to do easily. And we know he is not a normal child, but the other adults, they don't know that. The protagonist, however, has already become much stronger, both in speed and power, but it seems like his body could still suffer easy injuries. Increasing the toughness of your body isn't that easy after all. One thing that could very well turn into one of my favorite moments in this story are the interaction between Cyan and his magic sword. They are serious but also fun, and in my opinion it is the good kind of comedy. The lore of this world and the story seem to be quite big. I can't wait to learn more about it, which is a very strong sign. However, I am uncertain of what is the end goal of Cyan in the story. Yes, he wants revenge and kill his brother, but that's not the end of the webtoon. It can't be. If my intuition is right, there will be much bigger things waiting for us. The Reborn Young Lord is an assassin surprised me positively. I expected another bland and boring protagonist who only has edge and shadow powers, but as it turns out, Cyan is actually an edgy shadow user that also has a personality, and that's what's important. The side characters also seem interesting, and it is very likely that they will add a lot to the story. From mates to half-sisters and half-brothers, even parents and step-parents, they all have character traits that make it obvious that they are not one-off characters. I am quite certain that there will be a time skip in the earlier parts of the story, and maybe even a second one. While I enjoy following Cyan as a child, I do think he will grow up, and that's quite fast. Also, we all know he has to become powerful enough to get his revenge against his brother, so for that, he has to become an adult, I think. Before that revenge can happen though, we need to talk about the ranking of the Reborn Young Lord as an assassin. So, let me tell you, on a scale from F to triple S, I gave today's webtoon a S+. This puts it very high in this year's ranking, but it is a well-deserved rank, and I think many of you will enjoy the story as much as I am doing it. However, if you want to hear big news for a series we all know from our childhood, you should watch this video. Maybe it can give you a new weekly series to enjoy. Pyro out. Bye!